Good afternoon. I came across this fabulous article, and it's just so aligned at how we need to look after our bodies and look after the food that we eat. I'm not sure whether this was a lecture or a recording or whatever it was, but it's got fascinating information and so much of it. So much information that I'm going to have to do it in 4 parts. One part it's going to take too long to read through. So I'm going to read this out to you. And I think this is just absolutely fascinating in regards to our health and how we look after ourselves. So it's called Food for Thought. And it's narrated or written by Dr. Keith Jeffrey. Probably around the mid-90s. It's been this mid to late 90s. Here it is. Food for Thought. What a great concept. How about food for thinking or food for performance? Food for energy, food for sleep, food for happiness, food for relationships, food for immune function and maintenance of great health. In fact, we could cut to the basics and simply say food for life, period. Apparently, food fuels all of our activities. And sadly, a large number of us are going to receive a very serious health wake-up call in the not-too-distant future. To drive that point home. Really, the action is to wait for that health challenge, hope to survive it, and then take action? Or you can take action for you and your family, and you can take it today, now. And I believe one of the only effective actions we have left, the only thing that at this point is to strengthen our failing immune systems. But I'll talk a little bit more on that in a minute. I'm Dr. Keith Jeffrey. I'm a very solution-oriented person. It's part of life in the medical world. For years I've known that diet and immune performance are connected. But for years I didn't know what to do about the serious decline in food quality in our country. In fact, almost nobody knew what to do about it. So we just hoped for the best. Remember, we are more than just what we eat. We are what our plants eat. And we are what we digest, which means we have problems. No doubt about that. The fact is, most of us are now just realizing that food these days is only a shadow of what it once was. For example, 75 bowls of spinach must be eaten to equal the iron content of only one bowl grown just about 50 years ago. That doesn't leave a lot of room for dessert, does it? The food we eat now incorporates thousands of additives, chemicals, and poisons. We mass produce our precious foods on starving and overused soils, with the obvious result dramatically reduced nutrients in our diets. You've all heard that before, so I won't go into any more detail. However, we're actually creating a new paradigm in this society. We found a rather fascinating way to starve while still eating. In fact, almost 3/4 of us starve while overeating in a desperate attempt to get the nutrients we need to function. And we face unimaginable corporate pressures to keep starving. Did you know that during the week of February 5th, 11th, 1996, of the top 10 advertisers in the US, numbers 1, 2, and 6 were for fast food restaurants. Number 1 bombarded us with almost 600 million household exposures each and every day. 600 million a day. Number 2 was over 300 million. And if you add the number 6 position, we hear and see a total of 1.1 billion household exposures daily from those 3 companies alone. Today's eating habits and pathetic foods leave most of us metabolically starved. Metabolically starved. We're starved at a cellular level. So what's the big deal? So we have a few hungry cells. Well, it's a bit more profound than that. Scientists have discovered that in a remarkable choreographed performance, each of our almost 60 trillion cells do an estimated 6 trillion activities each and every second, with the single end goal of keeping us alive and vibrant. 6 trillion activities times about 60 trillion cells means that we do in total about 360 septillion things a second. That's 360 with 24 zeros, in case you're wondering what a septillion is. The big deal is that we are simply not feeding those cells. The result? Are we healthy? Let's not keep kidding ourselves. Look around at your family, your friends, and co-workers. So many chronic degenerative diseases. The number 1 and 2 killers in society strike fear into us all. So many people are now dying. We're not healthy. We're anything but vibrant. We're tired, depressed. In fact, remember that advertising survey I just mentioned? Well, guess what 2 of the other top 10 companies were? Any guesses? They were pharmaceutical companies offering painkillers designed to relieve symptoms. Interesting. Painkillers and fast foods are taking up half of the top 10. In fact, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to conclude that a diet of fast food, sugary drinks, and high-fat foods might be leading us to a lot of degeneration we see in our families and in our society. Let's face it, the most heavily advertised foods and drugs may not create vibrant people. When's the last time you saw an ad for organic broccoli during primetime TV? The problem is, most of us have never really thought about it. We consume over 40 billion doses of aspirin-type drugs each year in North America. Thousands of tons of the stuff. Over 8 billion doses of acetaminophen painkillers. So we hide the symptoms of desperate bodies. Bodies telling us, as best they can, that they're in trouble. So the body tries harder with larger symptoms. We hide those symptoms with more medications. I think we're afraid to listen until the symptoms become so profound that they get diagnosed as any number of chronic disease processes, most with no known cause. We can name each of them, but we don't have a clue what causes them. To some, those diseases are the wake-up call I mentioned earlier on. If we survive that wake-up call, then we take action? I guess better late than never. So that's part 1, and I'll read part 2 another time. We're talking about wake-up calls. Now, I could have done this as a refined presentation. I could have used my studio and polished all of my errors and mistakes and things like that, but that takes time, and I don't have a lot of time. So I thought I'd just read off the notes straight like that and hope that we get something out of it. So I hope that's helped, and I hope that intrigues you for the next part so we can see where we're heading. Alrighty, have a great day. Bye.